Welcome to another video in the home study series where I'm going to be covering motorway rules, which is one of the biggest rules, which is one of the biggest categories after road and traffic signs. If you struggle with your theory test and you want a little bit help, hints, tips and tricks, you can download my ultimate study guide, which the link is in the description, which gives you a bit of advice on how to study and links to certain videos that will help you out. If you want direct help from me, join the 5-day bootcamp where you can join, get some help over Zoom over 5 days, 2 hours a day, and achieve results like this. This person, I'm not going to put the name on the screen, had their test, joined the course and passed first time. You've got Amelia, who took the course and got 47 out of 50, has perception 57. Again, after doing the course, I think she took her test back 2 weeks after the course and passed again first time. And then you have Stefan, who just straight to the point when sending the details through, just passed the theory test again. He was on the course and passed first time, I believe, or maybe second time, not quite sure, but a pass is a pass, take it any way you want. So if you want help via the boot camp, you can join the boot camp. You have unlimited help until you actually pass the theory test. So even if you take it fail first time round, you can stay in the boot camp and get help. There's other training material stuff in there that gives you the best possible chance of passing first time, but the link is in the description. So I'm going to be using the 4-in-1 app. Everybody keeps asking me what app do I recommend. I recommend the 4-in-1, otherwise known as the Driving Test Success app. I just find it easier to use. I recommend that to all my students. So that's the one I'm going to be using. I'm going to do a 50 question mock test. Any tricky questions or answers that come up, I'll show you how to work it out. Remember what you're looking for when you do a theory test. You're looking for a safe outcome or a controlled outcome. So I'm going to be doing this on my iPad. So let's get started. So the first question: what should you do while you're driving or riding along a motorway? Travel much faster than you would on other roads. That's not a safe answer. Look much further ahead than you would on other roads. That's going to be a safer option. The reason why you want to look further ahead, because you're doing 17 miles an hour. On the motorway, you can see at least a mile ahead because there's no sharp bends, sharp curves. There's gentle curves, but no sharp bends. So that's a safe option, but still read the others just in case. Maintain a shorter separation distance than you would on other roads. Remember, the separation distance is 2-second gap if you drive 40 miles an hour or more. This is a motorway, so technically you're doing 70. And if it's wet, you're going to be 4 seconds. So if you go less, it's going to be dangerous. And concentrate more than you would on other roads. Concentration should be standard across whatever road you're on. So this is going to be the correct answer. So here's the second question. What should you do when going through a contraflow system on the motorway? A contraflow for the theory test means going against the flow of traffic. That's what this means. This is a dual carriageway contraflow. The black bit's been opened up, so you're going on the wrong side of the road, hence why it's a contraflow. If you're with the apps as well, you can enlarge the image. That's why I like the 4-in-1. You tap on the image if you're doing it on your phone or iPad to get a clearer view. Let's close that down. Again, read the question. What should you do when going through a contraflow system on the motorway? Switch lanes to keep the traffic flowing. You definitely don't want to be doing that. You want to stay in your lane. Use dipped headlights. If it's daytime, you wouldn't be using dipped headlights, so it's not going to be that. Keep a good distance from the vehicle ahead. That sounds like the safest option at this point in time because you're on the wrong side of the road. You want to keep a good gap between you and the car in front. Stay close. Once you've got stay close, it's going to be wrong because that doesn't promote safety. Why is it particularly important to check your vehicle before making a long motorway journey? So the road surface will wear down the tires faster. The road surface is always going to wear your tires down. That's wear and tear over time. It's always going to go, but that's not the reason why. You will have to do more harsh braking on motorway. You shouldn't be braking harshly anyway. So that's a no-no. Continuous high speeds increase the risk of your vehicle breaking down. That's true. And motorway services areas do not deal with breakdowns. So that answer, continuous high speed, driving at high speeds can cause your car more risk of breaking down. So that's the reason why That answer is what it is. What should you do immediately after joining a motorway? Try to overtake. No, you want to get acclimatized. So if you join a motorway, you want to stay in the left-hand lane for some time, get used to the speed, the weather conditions, and everything else that's going on around you. So it's not going to be try to overtake. Readjust your mirrors. The mirror should be set up already. Stay in the left-hand lane. Yep, stay left when possible. Position your vehicle in the center lane. That's called lane hogging. You should stay left when possible. You're on a motorway. What does it mean when a mandatory speed limit is displayed above the hard shoulder? If they've got a 50 over the hard shoulder, it means you can use the hard shoulder. It's called a running lane. For whatever reason, there's lots of traffic. That's why the speeds dropped from 50 to 70 miles an hour, from 70 to 50 miles an hour. So they put a 50 on the hard shoulder. It means you can use it. If it's an X over the hard shoulder, it means you can't use it. So in this case, we can use it. We just need to find the answer to match. The hard shoulder can be used as a running lane. That's what it's called, a running lane. But still read the rest just in case. You should not travel in this lane. You can park on the hard shoulder if you feel tired. That's not legal. You can only go in the hard shoulder if you've broken down. And you can pull up in this lane to answer a mobile phone. You know you can't use your phone while driving, so that's a no. What's the speed limit for a car towing a trailer on the motorway? For a car just driving on the motorway is 70 miles an hour. If you're towing heavy goods vehicle, you drop it by 10. So it becomes 60. Just read the question again. What's the speed limit for a car towing a trailer on the motorway? Remember, just a car, it's 70. Drop it by 10, you're looking for 60. So all we got to do is go straight to 60, and that's going to be the answer. Where are amber reflective studs found on a motorway? Reflective amber studs are called cat's eyes. Well, studs, reflective studs, let's start again. Reflective studs are the called cat's eyes. They're in between the lanes. You have red on the left, white in the middle, and ambers on the right. And then you have green, which is a slit road. So if it's got slit road, then it's green. Go straight for that one. If you read the word motorway, so it says, where are the amber reflective studs found in the motorway? This is if you struggle with studs. Look at the word motorway, isolate the R, the W, and the A. Work out what studs they're talking about. So it's told you they're talking about amber studs. Now, if you isolate the R, the W, the A, amber, A for amber is on the right of those three letters. So it's going to be on the right-hand side near the central reservation. If it was white studs they're talking about, or said the middle, then it's going to be the W because it's in the middle of the R and the A. And if they mentioned on the left or red, red R for red, it's going to be on the left-hand side. The letters are in the exact order as the word motorway, and they always have to give you the word motorway on your test. So if you struggle, just isolate R, W, A, work out what color the studs they're talking about or where the studs are, and that will give you the information. So in this case, it's amber studs. A is on the right, so we're looking for something along those lines. So between the acceleration lane and the carriageway, that would be green. Between the hard shoulder and the carriageway, hard shoulder on the left, that would be R, red. Between each pair of lanes, that's the middle lane, white. Between the central reservation and the carriageway, central reservation is on the right, hence amber. So that's the one I'm going to go for. What color are the reflective studs between the hard shoulder and the left-hand lane of a motorway? And that's how the theory test can work sometimes when you go for the real test. They just throw up similar questions. If that happens and you know the answers, you're laughing because you get sort of similar answers for the same category of questions. Otherwise, sometimes it could be totally random. When you do take your theory test, if there's 10 of you in the room, it's going to be 10 different tests. It's not the same test for everybody. So that's the reason why I always suggest doing the categories, hence why I'm doing each category in turn for this home study series. Right, so they said hard shoulders on the left. If you followed my advice from the previous question, isolate the R, W, A. R is on the left, so it's going to be red, which is what we're looking for. Don't have to read any other ones. That's the one we're looking. You're joining a motorway from a slit road. How should you deal with traffic already on the motorway? So use the slit road to accelerate until you're moving much faster than the motorway traffic. If you're moving much faster, you're breaking the speed limit, so it can't be that. Match your speed to traffic in the left-hand lane and filter into a safe gap. It's got safe in here, so let's take that as a possible. Stop at the end of a slip road. Once you stop at the slip road, it becomes dangerous. Even though it's got safe in there, it says stop at the end of the slip road and look for a safe gap. You don't want to be stopping on the slip road because you're stopping So means you're starting from zero. A safe gap on the motorway at that time is going to be very difficult to go from 0 to 70 unless you're racing that car. So that's not going to be the safe option, even though it's got safe in the answer. Carry on along the hard shoulder until you see a safe gap. Again, it's got safe gap in there, but it's telling you to drive in the hard shoulder, which is not correct. So the answer we've gone for, match your speed to traffic in the left-hand lane and filter into a safe gap. That's the safest option out of all. When would you use the right-hand lane on a 3-lane motorway? When would you use the right-hand lane on a 3-lane? Right-hand lane on the motorway is only for overtaking. That's the difference between a motorway and a dual carriageway. Motorway is for overtaking only, right-hand lane, and a right-hand lane on the dual carriageway is for overtaking and turning right. So we're looking for just overtaking. When you're trying to save fuel, no. When trying to turn right, you can't turn right on the motorway. When you're traveling above the speed limit, again, you're breaking the speed limits. That can't be safe. And when you're overtaking is an option. You're on a 3-lane motorway. Which lane are you in? If there are red reflective studs on the left and white's one to your right. So again, a lot of stud questions are coming up. So again, if you follow my advice from the previous question, they're talking about red studs. Go to the RWA. R is on the left, so we're looking for the left-hand lane, something along those lines. On the hard shoulder, no. In the right-hand lane, no. In the middle lane, no. In the left-hand lane, yes. Your vehicle has broken down on the motorway. What should you do if you're not able to get onto the hard shoulder? Okay. Stop the traffic behind and ask for help. That you shouldn't be doing. That's dangerous. Asking cars to stop at 70 miles an hour. Switch on your hazard warning lights. Yeah, because you're in a lane, so you're dangerous. You're an obstacle. You're a hazard. So put your hazard lights on. Attempt to repair your vehicle quickly. That doesn't make sense because that's totally unsafe. And stay behind your vehicle to warn others. That's totally dangerous. The safest one, switch on hazard lights because you are a problem. You are obstruction. Your vehicle has broken down on the motorway. In which direction should you walk to the nearest emergency telephone? And you want to be walking in the direction of a marker post. There's lots of marker posts in between the phones. And it's got a phone symbol and an arrow. It tells you which way to walk to the nearest phone. So you want to walk in the direction of the marker post. In the direction shown on the marker post, first one out. With the traffic flow, no. Facing oncoming traffic, no. That's when you use the phone, you want to face oncoming traffic when you're using the phone. That's another question for another day. In the direction of the nearest exit, no. What colour are the reflective studs between the motorway and the slip road? Again, a lot of stud questions coming up on this. I already said to you previously, slip road is always going to be green. So we're just looking for straight for green. Why is it important to make full use of the slip road as you join the motorway? You want to make a full use of the slip road so you can get the speed up to match the speed of the cars on the main carriageway. So we're looking for something along those lines. Because there's space available to turn around if you need to, makes no sense. To allow you to direct access to overtaking lanes, that's not true. Because you can continue on the hard, that's not true. Let's get rid of that one. To allow you to fit, again, got safely in the answer. To allow you to fit safely into the traffic flow in the left-hand lane. And you always stay left when possible. So it's got safe in it, or safely, and it's got left-hand lane. So you've got two things which are true in that situation, hence why that's the option. Again, what colour are the reflective studs between the lanes on a motorway? So it says between. So it's telling you where that is, middle lane. Again, go to the R, W, A. W's in between the R and the A. So we're looking for white. So just go straight for that. When would you use an emergency area on a motorway? When would you use an emergency area on a motorway? They're talking about the hard shoulder or emergency refuge area. They don't make it quite clear with that way it's worded. It's confusing me, and I'm going to do this every week. So I'll just read that again. When would you use an emergency area on the motorway, which is the hard shoulder or emergency refuge area? They can word it either way. So if you think you've been involved in road rage incident, no. To stop and check where you are, no. In case of emergency, again, it's got emergency in the question. It's got emergency in the answer, so it's a possible connection. And to make a private phone call, which you know you shouldn't be doing. You're traveling along a motorway. When are you allowed to overtake on the left? The only time you're allowed to overtake on the left on the motorway is if the other lanes are going slower, because you can't slow down to match them. So you have to try to keep the speed up with the lane that you're in. So if the middle lane and right lane's going slowly and the left-hand lane's going faster, you can overtake. Technically, it's called undertaking, but for the theory test, they call it overtake. When you warn drivers behind by a signaller, no. When you can see well ahead that the hard shoulder is clear, you shouldn't be using the hard shoulder, says no. When the traffic in the right-hand lane is signaling right, you can't turn right on the motorway, so again, no. When in queues and traffic to your right is moving more slowly than you are, yes. Which vehicles are prohibited from using the motorway. Cars with automatic transmission can use it, obviously. Double-decker buses can use it. Motorcycles over 50cc can use it. Powered mobility scooters, disabled buggies, in other words, cannot use it because their top speeds are 8 miles an hour. So it's going to be these guys. You're towing a trailer along a 3-lane motorway. When may you use the right-hand lane? The only time you can use the right-hand lane when towing stuff, and this is for heavy goods vehicles as well, is when there's lane closures. If there's lane closed off, we can now use the right-hand lane because the speed limit gets dropped from 70. Normally it's about 50 miles an hour. So because the speed limit is now slower, they can go in the right-hand lane to keep traffic flowing. So when there are lane closures, yes, always still read the others just in case. When there's slow moving traffic, no. When you can maintain a high speed, no. When large vehicles are in the left and center lane. Your vehicle breaks down on a motorway and you manage to stop on the hard shoulder. What should you do if you use your mobile phone to call for help? If you're using your mobile, ideally when you use the SOS phone because it's a direct call and also it's free. But if you're going to use your mobile, you're looking for the marker post or something along those lines. You want to find your location so you can tell them where you are. Phone a friend and ask them to come and collect you. No, stand at the rear of your vehicle while making a call. You shouldn't do that. Should stand well away from the carriageway. Wait in the car. Definitely not wait in the car. That's dangerous in itself. Check your location from the nearest marker post beside the hard shoulder. That's going to be the answer. What should you do when you're approaching roadworks on a motorway? What should you do? All right, stay very close to the vehicle in front. You know that's not going to be correct. 2-second gap on the motorway or 4 seconds if it's wet. Always use the hard shoulder. No, because hard shoulder for emergencies only. Speed up to clear the area quickly. No, obey the speed limit. Definitely obey the speed limit. Traffic officers operate on motorways and some primary routes in England and Wales. What are they authorized to do? Again, you can always blow the picture up. These guys are authorized to direct traffic on the motorway. They have got no legal powers, so they can't chase you down, cut you up, and all the rest of it. So they are authorized to direct traffic on the motorway. Again, looking for something along those lines. So repair broken down vehicles on the motorway. No. Stop and arrest drivers who break the law. They haven't got legal powers to do that. Stop and direct anyone on the motorway. Yes. Issue fixed penalty notices. Again, no. Your vehicle breaks down on a motorway and you need to call for help. Why might it be better to use an emergency roadside telephone rather than a mobile phone? It connects you to a local garage. No. It allows easy location by emergency services. That's a possible. Using a mobile phone will distract other drivers. No. Mobile phones do not work on motorways. Yes, they do, as long as they've got decent coverage. So it's that one. As I said earlier on, always, if you're breaking down on a motorway, use the SOS phone. It's free. And it's a direct, as you can see, it allows location by the emergency services. You're on a motorway. What does it mean if a red cross is shown above the hard shoulder and a mandatory speed limit above all other lanes? Again, blow the picture up because there's clues. So the X is above the hard shoulder. A red X at that. So do not use it. Use the other 3 lanes. So you can drive in the other 3 lanes, but you cannot drive in the hard shoulder. So the hard shoulder can be used as a rest area. You know that's not true, so get rid. The hard shoulder can be used as normal running lane. No, because it hasn't got the 50 over it. The hard shoulder is for emergencies or breakdown use only. Yes. The hard shoulder has a speed limit of 50. It hasn't got 50 over it. It's got an X. You're driving on a motorway. What does it mean if a car in front shows its hazard warning lights for a short time? 2 things. It could be it's broken down, there's a mechanical problem, or they see they have to slow down suddenly or danger ahead. That's what people do on the motorway sometimes, put hazard lights on. The reason why they put hazard lights on, in broad daylight, the brakes don't always show up, but hazard lights do. So they may be putting hazard lights on because they see danger or they're slowing down suddenly to give you a warning. So we're looking for something along those lines. The driver wants you to overtake. No. Traffic ahead slowing or stopping suddenly. That's danger. There's police speed check ahead. No. The other car is going to change lanes. That would be an indicator, not hazard lights. So the answer is no for that one. You're traveling in the left-hand lane of a 3-lane motorway. How should you react to traffic joining from a slip? You should try to slow down try to change lanes. If it's safe to do so. If it's not safe to do so, then obviously adjust your speed in a safe manner to allow them to come in. Increase your speed to make sure they join behind you. Again, increasing your speed may take you over the speed limit. if you're already driving at 70. Maintain a steady speed. If you're going to hit them and you maintain a steady speed, let's try that again. If you are maintaining a steady speed and you're going to hit them, obviously if you're maintaining speed, you're going to crash. So no. Switch on the hazard warning lights. There's no hazard at that point, so there's no point in switching it on. Adjust your speed or change lanes if you can do so safely. I'll also give you a little tip. If you can do so safely, the answer is always going to be correct. So if it's got if you can do so safely, the answer is always going to be correct for any answer on the theory test, because they're making it quite clear it definitely is safe. That's why if you can do so safely, that answer will always be correct for any question that comes up, or answer for any question that comes up, not just for this one. Which vehicles should use the left-hand lane on the 3-lane motorway? Everybody should be using it. Everybody stays left unless they're overtaking. Large vehicles only, no. Any vehicle that's not overtaking, yes. Slow vehicles only, no. Emergency vehicles only. You stop on a hard shoulder of a motorway and use the emergency telephone. Where's the best place to wait for help to arrive? Well away from the carriageway. Make sure you stand behind the barriers if you've got a barrier. If not, stand as far away from the car and the carriageway as possible. Well away from the carriageway, there's the first one. On the hard shoulder, definitely not. Next to the phone, definitely not. With your vehicle, definitely not. How should you position yourself when you use the emergency telephone on the motorway? Face the traffic. Always face the traffic. The reason why is because if a car loses control, you can see it, so you can run. If the eyes see the problem, it can tell the brain what to do next. That's how I teach my students. So if you're going to use the emergency telephone or the SOS phones on the motorway, face the traffic, because someone loses control at 70 miles an hour, you need to run. So keep your back to the traffic, no. Face oncoming traffic, yes. Stay close to the carriageway, definitely not. Stand on the hard shoulder, no. What restrictions apply to people who have a provisional driving license? They can not drive with more than one passenger. It's not true. They cannot drive unaccompanied. They cannot drive unaccompanied. They cannot drive with somebody, not someone in there. That's a possible. They cannot drive over 30. Yes, they can. They cannot drive at night. Yes, they can. So it's that one. You have to, if you've got a provisional driving license, you have to have a qualified driver. Let's just clarify, it's not just a case of having somebody next to you. They have to be qualified, over 21 and 3 years of passing their driving. How is bunching reduced on motorways? This is traffic bunching. They've missed the traffic bit out. Like I said, the very test can be worded slightly differently. And I've got to mention as well, these app questions are sampled questions, or otherwise known as revision questions. They're not the same question that you're going to get on a real test. So on here, they normally say, how is traffic bunching reduced on motorways? So obviously, queue of traffic, variable speed limits. The motorway, especially smart motorways, they can change your speed live while you're driving. They can put it to 70. They can reduce it down to whatever. So it's variable speed limits is what you're looking for. By using higher speed limits, no. By using advisory speed limits, no. By using minimum speed limits, no. By using variable speed limits is what you're talking about. What does this motorway sign mean? So you've got 50 across all lanes, including the hard shoulder, which means you can use it. This is a different version to the one we saw earlier, one with the red X and 350s. Hard shoulders you cannot use. This one's got 450s. You can use. Use the 3 lanes. Use 3 right-hand lanes only, no. Use any lane except the hard shoulder, no. Use hard shoulders only, no. Use all lanes, including hard shoulder, yes. What's the national speed limit on motorways for cars and motorcycles? The national speed limit for cars and motorcycles is 70 miles an hour. So we just look for 70, go straight there, because you're not towing anything. So it's 70. Your car gets a puncture while you're driving on the motorway. What should you do when you've stopped on a hard shoulder? Call for help. Stand well away from the carriageway, get everybody out, call for help. So let's see what option they're going to give you. Try to wave down another vehicle, no. Use an emergency telephone and call for help, yeah. Use SOS phone. Carefully change the wheel. You can't change your wheel. It's illegal to change your own wheel on the motorway because obviously it's totally dangerous. And only change the wheel if you have a passenger to help you. Again, the answer to that is no. When should you use the left-hand lane of a motorway? Just worded differently, which I call a revamped question. And again, that's how the theory test works. They give you a similar question, just worded differently. Everybody stays left, so you should always be staying left. So when should you use the left-hand lane of a motorway? At all times, unless you're overtaking. And when the vehicle breaks down, shouldn't be in the lane, should be in the hard shoulder. When making a phone call, you know that you shouldn't be doing a phone call while the car's in motion. When you're overtaking slower traffic in other lanes. So just the way it's worded, look, it's got when should you use the left-hand lane of a motorway? When you're overtaking slower traffic in other lanes. That sounds like a possible answer, but when the road is clear ahead, when the road ahead is clear is the answer. If it's clear ahead, you should be staying left. But that one there, when you're overtaking slower traffic in other lanes, which technically is the one we spoke about earlier on, undertaking. If the traffic is going slower, you should be using the left-hand lane. And that's why that answer is a popular one, but it's also the wrong answer. But if what they're saying with this answer, if it's clear, as in all the lanes are clear, you should always be staying left. That's when you should. What do these motorway signs mean? These are countdown markers, counting down to the nearest exit or junction. They can call it junction number or exit number. You should signal between 200 and 300 yards. They're yards, 300 yards, 200, 100. And you should signal between 2 and 1 when coming. So we're looking for a countdown. The distance markers to the next telephone, no. The countdown markers to a bridge, no. The countdown markers to the next exit, yes. They warn of police control ahead, no. And there's also different colors, blue and white. Let me just put this back up. Blue and white is motorways, as you now know. Green and white is dual carriageways. Red and white is level crossing without gate or barrier. And black and white is roundabout. What would you expect to find at a contraflow system on a motorway? What would you expect to find at a contraflow system? Slower speeds, technically, because remember, contraflow means going against the flow of traffic and it's on a motorway, so looking for lower speeds on that. But let's see what option they're giving you. Wider lanes than normal, definitely not, because it's still on the wrong side of the road. Lower speed limits, yes. Temporary traffic lights, no. Road humps, definitely. You're traveling along a motorway. Where would you find a crawler lane or climbing lane? A crawler lane for heavy goods vehicles. So when heavy goods vehicles are going up a steep hill, they slow down. So they go in the crawler lane and literally do that, crawl up the hill. So you're going to find it on a motorway and a steep gradient. So let's see what option they're giving you. Along the hard shoulder, no. Before a junction, no. Before a service area, no. On a steep gradient, yep. On a 3-lane motorway, which lane should you use if there's no traffic ahead? Again, this is just revamped from the previous questions we've had. Always stay left. So let's just go for that. And let me just double check on the 3-lane motorway, which lane should you use if there's no traffic ahead? Yep, no traffic ahead, always stay left. You're on a motorway. The hard shoulder is not being used as a running lane. When should you use a hard shoulder? Only for emergencies. Hard shoulders only for emergencies, unless you're told otherwise by sign. So when you're stopping an emergency, first one out, but read the others just in case. When you're leaving the motorway, no. When you're joining the motorway, no. When you're stopping for a rest, definitely. What should you do if you're driving on a motorway and you miss the exit that you wanted to take? Keep going until the next exit. You can't turn around on the motorway. So you've got to keep going at the next exit, go to the roundabout, go back the other way. Carefully reverse along the hard shoulder, dangerous. Make a U-turn, you can't do that. Carefully reverse again, no. Carry on to the next exit, yes. When are you allowed to stop on a motorway? Emergencies only. When you wish to pick up hitchhikers, no. Do people actually still hitchhike? When you need to walk and get fresh air, no. When you're signaled to do so by traffic signals, that's possible if they told you. And when you need to use a mobile phone, no. So based on the information we've got here, when are you allowed to stop on a motorway? When you're signaled to do so by traffic signals. If the traffic signals tell you to stop, like red X's across all the lane, for example, that's a time to be stopping because you've been told to do that. But you can't do it at your own will, if you like. You're just talk about red X's. You're on a motorway. What must you do if there's a red cross shown above every lane? And this is what I'm talking about. If you've got a red X across every lane, you want to stop and wait for further information. And that's how the theory test can work on the real test. You may get questions that you just know, and then you may get questions that you have no idea, and then you have to really put some thought process behind it. Because I repeat, there may be questions on the theory test that you have never seen before, so you need to spend some time to work it out. I literally just spoke about this on the previous question, and it's right here in front of us. So I'll just read the question again. You're on a motorway. What must you do if there's a red cross shown above every lane? Be careful with the answers on the real test. I'll just see if this show this one up. Slow down and watch for further signal. This is the common answer. Slow down and watch for further signals. This suggests you're not going to stop, because if you don't see further signals, it means you're going to go past the red X. This is not the correct answer. I repeat, it's a common answer, but it's wrong, because it says you're slowing down, looking for further information. If the further information does not come in time, you are going to be driving past the red X. The answer is going to be stop and wait for further information. Pull onto the hard shoulder, no. Leave it at the next exit. You can't do that because you can't go past X. Stop and wait for further information. The theory test is black and white. It does not leave you in a grey area. So by stopping, that makes it quite clear. Slow down and wait for information suggests you're still moving. That's not clear. That's the reason why it's this one. What's the national speed limit for a car or motorcycle on the motorway? Again, had this before. It's 70 miles now because you're not towing anything. Go straight for 70. You have stopped in an emergency area. What must you do before you rejoin the carriageway? Interesting. Build your speed up or make a phone call. They can give you either option. You want to build your speed up. If that's the case, you want to drive in a hard shoulder, get your speed up to match the speed of the cars on the main carriageway, or make a phone call to the motorway services so they can do what they need to do to make it safe for you to join. But we'll see what option they're giving you. Give an arm signal as you're moving off. Nope. Use the emergency telephone. That's a possible because there. Move away with your hazard lights on. Definitely not. Switch on your vehicle's headlights. Again, not. So yeah, find the emergency phone so they can do what they need to do to help you out with that. What helps to reduce traffic bunching on the motorway? Again, that's just variable speed limits. Again, it's just worded differently. Same answer, variable speed limits, traffic bunching. Notice they've got traffic bunching in this one, but they didn't have traffic bunching in the previous one. Again, like I said, the real test questions are worded different. What helps to reduce traffic bunch on the motorway? National speed limits, no. Contraflow systems, no. Lane closures, no. Variable speed limits, yes. You're on the motorway. What does it mean when a red cross is displayed above the hard shoulder? So it says hard shoulder, so you can't drive in it. If it's a red X across the hard shoulder, above the hard shoulder, you cannot drive in it. If it's a 50 of the hard shoulder, it means you can drive in it. Pull up in this lane to answer your mobile phone. No. Use this as a running lane. No. This lane can be used if need a rest. No. You must not travel in this lane. My dyslexia is really kicking in. You must not travel in this lane. If you're like me and got dyslexia, again, read the question 2 or 3 times to make sure it makes sense. Because like I said, I'm reading this, it's not making sense to me. I'm struggling to get my words out. But I'm going to leave it in the video. I'm not going to edit it. It would be easier for me to edit out all my mistakes, but that's not what I'm about, as you guys know. You're driving on the motorway. Which lane should you get into well before you reach your exit? It's going to be left-hand lane. Should be left anyway. You should be in the left-hand lane from at least a mile away to come off a motorway. So read the question again. You're driving on the motorway. Which lane should you get into well before you reach your exit? Hard shoulder, no. Middle lane, no. Right-hand lane, no. Left-hand lane, yes. Because the exit's always to the left. And 50th question. Where should you stop to rest if you feel tired while you're traveling along a motorway? A service station or a rest area. You cannot pull up on a hard shoulder to rest. That's not safe. That's not classed as an emergency either. On the hard shoulder, no. At the nearest service area, yes. On the central reservation, no. And on the slip road, no. So there you see it. 50 out of 50. I'll also, as well, that's the magical 50 that I always say when students say 49, I say you missed it by 1. So 50 out of 50 with that. So let me just quickly explain. If you get questions wrong, what you don't want to do, because what most of you are doing is question and the app gives you the correct answer. You go question, right answer. That's not the way to do it. You want to go question, look at what you put as a wrong answer and try to work out why you chose that. And then try to work out how you can see it's the wrong answer. So look for the clues in your answer that you put on why it's wrong. And then obviously look at the correct answer from the app. The brain will now start to eliminate that, and that's how you learn. So if you're ever taking mock tests and your scores are always around 38, 39, 40, always about the same score. So if you're always getting 40s, 41s, that's the reason why. You're technically memorizing the answer when you go from question to the app answer. Because subconsciously, you're not doing it deliberately, but subconsciously you're memorizing the answers. Always go to the wrong answer, work out why, ask yourself, why did I pick that? And then look for the connections, why that answer does not make sense. And then go looking at the correct answer. and then you're making the brain have stronger knowledge, and then your scores will start to improve and go up and up until the pass mark. So that's a little tip for you. So remember, if you struggle doing theory or studying, click in the link, the ultimate study guide, download that. That's going to give you hints, tips and tricks along the way. If you want to join the bootcamp where you can get help directly from me, have access until you pass, you've got email support as well as the bootcamp. Again, the link is in the description. So now you've done the motorway rules. If you really struggle with motorway studs, I suggest you go off and watch this video, and I'll catch you in there.